I'm going to explain to you why you don't agree to anything you don't know on today's Unnamed Real Estate Podcast. Well, hi there. Lights on. So, my name is Charles Ray Dawson. I am the Associate Broker and Residential Sales Manager at ProStar Realty. This is episode 119 of the Unnamed Real Estate Podcast, episode Curbio. So I was a little thrown off there because I've just taken a call from one of my agents stuff. We had an interesting little question pop up. When you write an offer, okay, you as the buyer writing the offer have the opportunity to ask the seller to contribute towards your closing costs, like your loan origination fees, your prepaids, that kind of stuff. And it's been pretty common, or at least was pretty common in the past, for an offer to ask for that and for a seller to accept, yeah, you can have 2%. Then the problem with seller's concessions is it starts turning into a go-to place. It starts going into a go-to place for agents when things need to adjust on the fly. During the home inspection, something might come up, all right, and then the buyer is going to sit down and send over the BINSR, the buyer's inspection notice, and the seller's response, and they will say stuff like roof, air conditioning, this kind of stuff. A lot of times, the seller is not going to be in a position to make the repairs requested by the buyer that came up on the home inspection. So, at that point, you can write an addendum to the contract and basically say, hey, let's give them $5,000 towards our closing costs, right, to offset, because our guys don't have that cash on hand to pay for these repairs to happen that the buyer wants to have happen. So, buyer, you can do it. We're going to give you $5,000 so you have more money to, after closing to deal with that. And usually that makes everybody pretty happy. What this phone call was, and this is like the second time I've seen this in the last 2 months, is at a certain point the lender might pop in and say, hey, yeah, underwriting won't let you spend that much money. All right, we're putting a hard cap in here. This happened to me really early on in my career. There was like $300 left on the table, and I could not get that $300 spent. I was pissed. Yeah, just, so when you are in that situation where you got a BINSR out there and then next they come back, how about we give you closing costs? Make sure, check with your lender first to see, are we going to be able to spend it all? All right. Otherwise, you might want to come up. In this particular case, they're 3 days out from closing, and underwriting has come back and said, yeah, you spent as much as we're going to let you, and you're coming short $2,300. Now, in the contract, any seller's concession that cannot get spent goes back to the seller. And so, in this case, the buyer's agent, not a ProStar agent, the other side, decided to send our agent an email going, hey, we got $2,300 left on the table. Can you write up an addendum dropping sales price by $2,300? And so my agent asked me what we do, and my first response was, nah, dog, we ain't doing that. That's find somewhere to spend that money or just eat the loss. All right. So now this actually dovetails really nicely into what I want to talk about today, because I got a call from one of those wholesalers / bird dogging for investor. Hey, we need another project. Do you have any houses that, basically you don't want to list on the MLS and get full price on? How about you sell it to us instead? And the number one reason why people want to sell to an investor, a home inspector, one of these wholesalers, is because they know there is stuff they need to have done on their house that is going to affect the final price of their house. Maybe affect how long it stays on the market because the house is in that poor a condition. And normally, go do a walkthrough, take a look at the house. Hey, you need to repaint. Nobody loves this color, right? This carpet and your 3 cats over the course of your lifetime and your kids have destroyed the carpets. Carpets are going to need to be replaced, that kind of stuff. And a lot of, got a case right now. Got a gentleman who's got a swimming pool that has been emptied for 3 years. That pool needs to be resurfaced and redone. So when you're at that point, you can take a second mortgage out. You can get a HELOC, or you can call some of these new vendors that have come on the market, one of which is, this is not a commercial for them, just an example, Curbio. And it's a company that'll come in there, and they're basically, a contractor is willing to get paid out of escrow. And you send them the scope of work, they send you a quote, usually within about a day or two, and then you can have that conversation with your seller going, if you want to go this route and do the repairs to the house that need to be done, it's going to cost $20,000. You'll pay that out of escrow. They do this beautiful little breakout sheet and stuff like that going, hey, with this $20,000 worth of work, you can list your house for 30, 40, 50,000 more. You get more money in your pocket at the end of the day. You're just dealing with the inconvenience of contractors running around your house while you're living in it. So, like I said, this just seems to be the theme of the day. When you're coming into a place and you know that Benzer is coming across and it's going to be ugly, you can reach out and get on that stuff early. Now, case in point, in continuation, I got a listing. It's a townhouse. We got the home inspection done on it. Buyer did. We get the Benzer over, and they call out a whole bunch of stuff that the HOA needs to take care of, right? And we can't fix that because the homeowner is not allowed to do work on places that the HOA is responsible for. So we have to send a letter off to HOA going, hey, we need these things fixed. Buyer's requiring it. Right. But there was an issue on there, and this was not a great home inspection. They sent over a full copy. I looked at it, I reviewed it, and it was a lot of, there's one major thing in the electrical box that is a no-brainer. Yeah, we're going to take care of that. All right. When they replaced the air conditioner, because new air conditioners run more efficiently, generally you might need to put a new breaker in there at a different amperage. You still have the original 40. It needed to be brought down to a 30. That's a no problem. The other thing is that it's a 51. It's built in 72, so it's a 51-year-old house, and it's got the original breaker box on it. And so they get dirty, they get cluttered up with stuff, right? So when a home inspector who doesn't really know what he's doing looks at a breaker box, he's going to say, "Oh my God, this da-da-da," and you'll say the magic words, "should be inspected by a licensed electrician." No problem. That's all on the buyer's side. The contract says that the buyer can bring anybody out there to inspect the house during their inspection period. But the agent on the other side did not do that. Instead, they write that up going, home inspection says this is an old breaker box, seller to have inspected by an electrician and make repairs or replacement necessary. That is a big open-ended statement, all right? Boys and girls, if somebody gives you an open-ended statement like that, never agree to anything that you don't know what it's going to be. All right, one, it's the buyer's responsibility to pay for a or an electrician to go and inspect that, not the seller. So you can't write into the Benzer, hey, you seller pay for an inspection. Strike one. All right. The second thing you can't do is you can't leave an open-ended and then fix anything they tell you to. Right? That's like going down to a mechanic and say, fix anything that's wrong on this car. Here's a blank check. Right? When you sign a Benzer agreeing, oh yeah, I'll do that, you're literally writing a blank check to an electrician. Because that electrician can come in there and say, yeah, the whole thing needs to be replaced, and this is your cost. You've just signed away $9,000 worth of work. Right. So what we did in this is, knowing full well that breaker box needed, that fuse needed to be fixed, I called up my electrician. I said, hey, I need you to go out there, fix this, swap this fuse out, this 30 amp to a 30 amp, 40 amp to a 30 amp. And then while you're in there, give the box a once over and see what's going on, if anything needs to be taken care of. And he comes back and says, no, it's golden. It's dirty, right? It's old, but no signs of overheating, no discoloration, none of the big issues that electricians look for. So problem resolved, right? So I know what you guys are wondering. Why didn't you ask Curbio to do that? Well, because obviously I could send Curbio in there and they could find all sorts of things that needed to be done. And some people get squirrely about different things. You don't really know what the buyer is going to freak out about on the Benzer. But what you do know is that if the house is ugly, it's not going to sell. If there's large amount of wood rot, they're probably not going to write an offer on it. So that's the reason why, that company exists. I've gotten several quotes from it. I've never seen anybody go through to closing on that yet. So caveat, all right. Curbio is an example of some of these programs out there. And if you are a contractor here in the Valley or elsewhere, you might want to really seriously consider that. If you got enough capital in hand that you could float during closing, or not get paid until closing, or maybe just half down, half up, at the end, you might want to look into it, because there's a real serious need here in the Valley and elsewhere for somebody who will come in and get paid at close of escrow. In case you're wondering how you make sure you get paid at the end of the day, there's something called a mechanics lien. All right, have a talk with your attorney about that. They're cheap, they're easy, they file, and that house will not close ever until that mechanics liens get taken care of, as long as you maintain it. Right? By maintaining it, you're going to have to continue to record that. By then, you've already gone to collections. All right, so let's cover our news real quick. Couple things. Our National Association of Realtors has an economist that we have on tap. He came out and gave a presentation this week where he basically said the Fed has overcorrected on inflation by lowering the rates, and that they need to quit doing what they're doing. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. A couple other things that are impacting in the inflation numbers is that rents are calculated, and home payments aren't calculated when they calculate inflation, but rents are. And we're going to start seeing rents coming down because we are building more apartments than we have in the last 40 years. All right. Our apartment building is at an all-time high here in the country. All right. And this will lower the rents, hopefully. Of course, Title 42 is expiring tonight, and we have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. But, rents are going, more apartments, more doors, rents go down. Now, remember, when they build these apartments, they're always the high end. So if the thought crosses your head, oh my God, yeah, but the new apartments they just put in across the street, they want $2,400 a month for that, and that's just too high. Well, what happens is the people who can afford $2,400 are going to move there, which means they're going to leave the cheaper ones to move into that one, and it's trickle down. All right, even though a lot of people get wigged out when people say trickle down, but more houses, lower prices. So that was the first thing that came up. Next conversation is having, and this is a lot of conversations, national news, about the shortage of home buyers out there. And is this going to crash the market? There's not a lot of people are buying houses, and that is correct, right? Not a lot of people are buying houses, but even less people are selling houses. All right, so let's stand by to stand by, right? And we're going to go over those numbers. And hey, you know what? How about we do this? How about we just go hit those numbers real quick, and we'll start it from there. All right, let's talk the numbers real quick. So numbers for May 10th, 2023. Actives this week are 11,993, down 108 from last week. New listings are 1,938, up 27. Contracts are 2,686, down 153. Closings were 1,628. Coming soon to an MLS near you is 672. And wait for just a second. Watch the bottom numbers. And that's what happens when I'm sitting there and I don't have time to set up properly. So when people schedule my life around me. So Cromford report numbers. Okay, so we're looking at supply at 55.0. Notice the number went down. Our demand is at 84.0. Notice the number went up. And we're now at 152.7 for our Cromford report numbers for the MLS wide. So the article that I was reading off the Cromford report, and we're calling out, is that, yes, 84.0, there's not as many buyers out there as there should be. That is correct. But our supply is at 55. Where we should have 100 houses for sale, we only have 55 of them. All right. And we're still looking at 84 buyers chasing after 55 houses. This is why our house prices are going back up again. Damn, I had a meeting before I did this, had a lot of talking, and I'm just hacking up a hairball over here. But, like just calling out, our numbers are down. Let's take a look at some of these things, right? We've had 33,506 new listings added so far in 2023, all right? This time last year, we had 42,048. And remember, we're just still in May. We still hadn't really truly identified the fact that prices were going to start dropping. The market had just seriously slowed all of a sudden, right? And some of that might have been those little panic, oh my God, we got to sell now kind of stuff, all right? All right, but the year before that, where we definitely weren't in a panic, there was 41,210 by this time. And in 2020, we had 40,744. So we're definitely down in supply. Less people are putting the houses on the market. And one of the theories on this thing was what I was saying a while ago, right at the very beginning. Like if you go back to like the early teens for some of my my videos, I remember saying these rates are so low, I'm afraid we're locking people into their homes, which means they're not going to be selling when it's time for them to sell, especially if they refi. I also told people, hey, people, if you're not refining now, you really, really should be. Well, now what we're starting to see here is we're starting to see people who have those nice 3% interest rates, in some cases 2% interest rates. Why do I want to get rid of my 2.85 interest rate that I have now to go buy a house, even with as much money as I will get out of selling it, all right, and have to borrow, all right, in the high fives, low sixes? Right? You almost maintain your payment at that amount. I mean, if you really think about it, I'm saying, even if I sold my place today, all right, and took all the money that I made from appreciation and put that on a bigger house, I'm basically going to be making more of a house payment, all right, than I normally would. So a lot of people, they're going to be emotionally attached to their interest rate numbers. And I actually wonder if 30 years from now, the banks are going to have like this little party, all right, one day when the last sub 4% loan finally gets paid off, because now they don't have to worry about that anymore. So interesting little scenario there. Let's take a look at the individual cities and what we got going on over there. So looking at this chart, all right, Chandler's still leaving the pack at 246 on the Cromford Market Index, up 7 month over month. Glendale is charging on hard right there at 23% over month over month, and they're at 231. They keep this thing up. They might catch and surpass Chandler. Think of it, Glendale being the hot market. Wow. Fountain Hills is up, and basically our big winner month, so far is still Paradise Valley with the biggest increase. All right, at 37%. Tempe's at 33 month over month, and Queen Creek is our only balanced market out there at 101. That's one buyer, one seller kind of stuff. And Maricopa and Buckeye are still showing as your places where your buyers still have a lot of leverage to beat a seller up with. All right, so if you're looking for the deals, Maricopa and Buckeye are the two places to be. Now this other chart that is popped up, this is their sales per year. All right, and as you can see, and this is one of those funky little charts that you got to remember in statistics class. This is comparing it per year, going back every year. So today when I'm recording this is May the 10th. So if you're looking at May the 10th down here, this is from May the 10th last year to now. If you're looking at this chart here, let's say December 31st, that is December 31st of 2022 to December 31st, 2021. All right. As you see, the sales per year have been steadily dropping down. Now, this ultimately only hurts real estate agents, loan officers, escrow, home inspectors, all of the people who make their money on having house transfer, right? Because if we're down here in the 75,000s or so, and we used to be in the 93,000s, that's a pretty healthy drop. That's over 20,000 less closings per year. All right, that's 40,000 less commission checks, figuring that each one of them was both sides. All right, that's 20,000 less escrow closings. That's 20,000 less home inspections. All right, that's 20,000 less, loans being made. All right. So as you can see, this is why a lot of people is like, you know, oh, I hear the market is really tough, it's really bad, stuff like that. It's like, yeah, it is if you are a real estate agent, right? But if you're a seller, it's a great time to sell, guys. You saw the ratios. If you're a buyer in the right market at the right price point, you can still do your thing, right? But remember, this is how real estate works. All right. It's a constant cycle. All right. Once again, if you hear the news, all right, remember, real estate is local. You don't want to necessarily sit there and believe what you're hearing on the podcasts. I'm going to wrap this one short because I am on a trip. I have been recalled by my manufacturer and need to return to my space of origin. All right. Translation, I'm going up to visit Mom on Mother's Day. All right, so when my dad watches this, you know, because when it comes out tomorrow, I will probably still be driving through the southern Utah deserts. So, and while I'm driving through those southern Utah deserts, the snow will be melting. I will not be driving in anything flooded. All right, if I do see anything flooded, I will watch children and pets around the water. All right, and you know I'm going to have a really great weekend this weekend, and I hope you guys do too. Catch you next week.